Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Keene. I'm Randy Filiault.
And I'm Dave Richards.
And today's show, we were going to have a guest on to pretty much take up the whole show. As if you watched the show last week, you saw that we had Jack Zeller on, who's running for sheriff and of Cheshire County. And today, the other Republican candidate, Earl Nelson, was going to join us. Got a phone call about half an hour before we went on the air. And apparently Earl got into some poison ivy or something. He said he got a good rash and couldn't make it. Yep. So take care of your rash because we don't want it. But Dave and I are in a little bit of a dilemma because we were just kind of going to kick back and throw a few questions at him and let Earl run the show. So we're going to kind of run the show and
we're going to have to make up the slack.
We're going to wing it. Not that we haven't ever done that before, but
when we do it right, people can't tell.
Whatever, you know. But you know, it's too bad that he couldn't make it because last week's show with Jack Zeller was very informative. I thought.
We learned a lot. You know, a lot about what it takes. What the sheriff's operation's really about. I mean, you don't see a lot of sheriffs, so it was nice to see.
No, the kind of you see that brown and white. Well, now that I think most of them are small SUVs. You see them go by, and it's like you don't really know. You just outside of hanging around the courthouse, what are they doing? Then you find out that they actually have the most power of any police department in the state. Yeah,
I didn't know that. That was interesting to find out.
You know. So, and thanks to Jack Zeller for coming on. It's very informative. I heard him on the radio again the other day. Jack's definitely making the rounds.
Yep.
But as you and I know, when you run for office,
it's what you have to do.
You have to pound the pavement and do everything you need to do, and hopefully not get a rash. You know, so because those can really get in your way. But anyhow, so Dave and I are we're going to talk about all stuff: local, state, federal, national, intergalactic, UFOs, whatever it takes today. So anyhow. Fire away, Dave, with a couple of things that you got. The council's kind of starting to roll back around again.
Yeah, we had quite an agenda last night. Nothing, only a couple items that were really kind of hot button or that weren't homework stuff. But I would like to mention, William Schofman. He's running Heberden Hall for his wedding. Congratulations. The Rotary Club. They will be having their annual fundraiser at the Michael E.J. Blastos Community Room on January 25, 2013.
Which is in the city-owned building on Marlborough Street?
Yep. The Rotary Club will be having the Clarence Delmar Marathon Kids Race.
Really?
Yes. No, I don't have the date on here.
Hopefully they don't have to run 23 miles or 26 miles, whatever it is.
No, it's they have an annual.
I get tired.
Delmar Marathon, and then they've added the kids and its bicycles and everything.
Oh,
but
cool.
I can't believe I didn't write the date down.
Maybe I can do that one.
This one's kind of interesting. Mark Balch of Mark's Dogs and More, and you may have even been still on council when he first came around.
I do remember that. He's back?
He's been consistently coming back every year.
Right.
And with a big debate about letting him have his hot dog wagon on Ralston Street till wee early morning hours.
Right.
It turns out that it's worked out very well. He's doing fine. There have been no issues, no problems whatsoever, so he wants to expand his hours.
Well, that particular area of Keene, let's face it, that late at night, is just loud anyhow, because it's pretty much, it's college.
Yeah, it's college kids, and
so it's not like, in my opinion, having a hot dog stand is going to add to any noise.
No.
Might actually shut them up a little bit as they stuff their face full of hot dogs.
That's right. Get them something to eat on their way back. So he wanted to expand his hours from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. Council had no issue with that.
That's good.
Yeah, I think so. So if you're an insomniac and you're up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you got a yen for a hot dog, head on down to 55 Ralston Street, you'll be all set.
There you go. This is a little plug for you.
This one's kind of interesting. Ruth Sterling came to us.
Ruth Sterling, for our viewers, is...
Ruth Sterling is in charge of running the Pumpkin Fest this year.
Yeah, year number 2.
And there's a film production company by the name of Red Arrow that was going to film Highland, Illinois' Pumpkin Fest, and they want to do a little show on home and garden television.
Yeah.
And when they went there to talk to people and meet with them, they found out that Highland, Illinois was actually modeling their Pumpkin Fest after Keene, New Hampshire. So then they came here. We gave them the okay to film this year in Keene. They're going to film in both locations, in Highland, Illinois and in Keene.
Dueling pumpkins.
They will, and they're going to be here through the month before the Pumpkin Fest, get a kind of feel of the city, and then they're going to be here for the Pumpkin Fest.
That's kind of interesting, kind of the whole preliminary setup, meetings,
I think
boring stuff.
But it's much better because you're going to get, you know, Pumpkin Fest is just one day a year. I mean,
for most people.
For most people, it's one day a year.
For some people, it's all year.
All year. But, so then they're going to run the show, and I don't know exactly what they're going to do. I would assume some kind of compare and contrast between the two. So look for that on Home and Garden Television. The annual fire parade, October 7th.
Hard to believe October. You know, it seems so far away, then you realize, oh, geez, we're only like 4 weeks away.
4 weeks away, yep. 4 weeks from today, October 7th. So this is kind of interesting because I only had a couple of minutes to talk to the fire chief, and I said, you know, you never put down how many years this parade's been going on. I said, I always like to do that when we have an annual thing and say we've been doing this for however many years. And he, you know, the chief, he's a funny guy. He said, well, I've been on the fire, you know, I've been worked for the fire department for 34 years.
So he knows it's been around 34 years?
He said he knows it's been around 34 years. And I go, well, any thoughts? He goes, you know, really? He said he didn't know. He said they've been doing it as far back as he can remember, and it actually could have gone back all the way to the 1880s. Well,
if you look in that book that I brought in a couple of weeks ago, that Steve Goldsmith.
Yes, I'm sure the information's in there one way or another.
It'd definitely be in there. And I remember looking at it, and the parades were back when they were horse-drawn.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and the chief did say that he was pretty sure that it was when they had horses they were doing it. So
yeah. You know, so we're going back, you know, well over 100 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to know. That'd be nice to say the 135th annual, you know, Fireman's Parade.
So when's the date on that again?
That is October 7th. So please mark your calendars.
Yep. And it's always on a Sunday, and I think it usually starts around noon or 1 o'clock, right around there. So just get downtown early, grab a cup of coffee.
Absolutely, walk around, take a look.
Yep.
We we okayed the city manager to do the paperwork for an easement on the Stearns Hill property, conservation easement.
Right.
This property was bought over, you know, from between 1972 and 85 for the purpose of being conservation land. It's 134 acres. So now that we've approved his, you know, now we're done. I mean, he just has to go do the paperwork. It will be conservation land. So that was the exciting stuff from planning. We did have one other issue that I think is pretty interesting is we're going to put in for a grant offer for reconstruction of one of the runways at the airport.
Okay.
It's a $5 million reconstruction project, but because of FAA and the state of New Hampshire matching funds, the city will have to pay, I want to say it's $330,000.
Right.
And out of that, then we will get $4.6 million in construction money. So, you know, this is one of them things where, you know, it's going to bring jobs in, it's going to bring construction work in, but it's also one of those things we get, and I did get calls on, you know, don't take the money because the federal government is, you know, spending the money and you shouldn't take it. Yeah. My understanding of the way FAA grants work is when you buy an airline ticket, you look on that ticket and somewhere it'll say there's a $10 charge for FAA fees. And they get $10 from every ticket they sell. They take all that money and put it in a pot, and then they upgrade airports around the country with it. So, you know,
once in a while, Keene gets its little chip.
We get to grab onto a little bit. I mean, we haven't gotten the grant yet. We're just applying for it. But
we got to get our crumbs every now and then.
Yeah,
you know, I'm sure the big airports get the loaves of bread, and Keene gets a little crumb every now and then.
I'm sure that's true. And when I look at this, because then it becomes it's a user fee. Really, it's not. You can call it a tax, a $10 tax on every ticket, but it's a user fee, and that money sits in a pot, and then they divvy it up. And if we don't take it,
somebody else gets it.
Somebody else gets it. There's no question. That's what happens with it. So, you know, in my role, I have to look at this as we have been, you know, like seal coating and fixing, and it's on the CIP to do a lot of repair work that would cost the city a lot of money. Or we can put this grant in, get a brand new runway, and we're good for years to come. So, and you know, it wasn't mentioned at council, but the jobs. I mean, a $5 million construction project's going to bring jobs in. So, you know, I think it's a win. You know, I think we should do it.
A lot of people don't realize just how busy the airport is, because most people, you know, if you're just using it for passenger service, let's face it, you go to Manchester, Boston, Bradley.
Right.
But business-wise in Keene, that airport is heavily used.
Yeah, and it's, you know, right, if you're not flying somewhere on a private plane, you wouldn't know.
I tell you, you know, you just never know.
Your studio located right next to the Keene Airport.
Yeah, we're sitting on the runway right now. Good job in there in the control room. Anyhow, where were we? So,
I mean, that was the big hitters. Well, we do have We had asked, well, the city manager had come to us and asked to get rid of some of the ad hoc standing committees because there's so many of them that, and we've been cutting back on staff due to the economic conditions.
Even these committees, which are volunteer, you still have to have staff to help run them, minute takers, all that. It takes up a lot of time.
So what we did was they looked over them, and I don't know if this is done. I'd like to think it's not, but and they came up with a couple of committees, 2 committees. The Cable Television Committee will now go to planning licenses and development. I should know that as I'm the chair. And they'll eliminate the committee. Originally, this was put together to primarily negotiate with
put Cheshire TV together, basically.
Put Cheshire TV on the air.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was, and we got to thank Phil Jones.
Phil Jones, he sat in that committee for so many years.
Who weathered that storm for it must have been 12 years before we got to where we had to get to.
Bringing around Cheshire TV wasn't easy.
No.
Time Warner Cable at the time really wasn't all that forthcoming.
They didn't want to do anything for us.
They didn't want to do a thing. That's basically what it was. And then you had Swansea and Marlborough involved, and which, by the way, Swansea, Marlborough, Keene worked very well together.
Right.
But it took a long time. So to Phil Jones, who's off the council right now, in a new ward, and I'm sure you haven't heard the last of him.
I'm sure you haven't.
Kudos to Phil on that one.
Absolutely, Phil did a great job. Actually, Phil was in last night, and Chuck Redfern were both in last night to accept their awards for service for the city. And Chuck was on the council for, I want to say, 13 years, and Phil was on for 15. So, but what they're going to do is any of these issues will now go to my committee because it's not when he did it, it was a year after year negotiation thing, and it's not that anymore, so no reason to make people meet on that. We can handle that at PLD. The Keene Development Commission is another one that was put in. And really MEDC has taken, Monadnock Economic Development Corporation has really taken over that role.
Right.
So those issues will now go to the MSFI, Municipal Services, Facilities, and Infrastructure Committee, chaired by Jim Duffy. We kind of found something interesting is the one we wanted to combine the Heritage Commission and the Historic District Commission. As it turns out, you can't do that because the Historic District Commission is a regulatory body. So you have when you have a regulatory body, you have to have a certain amount of people, and certain guidelines, and you just couldn't put the two together. So we couldn't do that. So those 2 committees will stay where they are, and that's where we're at now. And we'll probably see some more of this stuff coming down the road. But it makes sense. It is a lot of staff time. It's and like I said, we're down, I think, 39 employees because of the economic crunch, and we're trying to manage with less, and we're trying to keep the taxes down and keep the city running. So we're finding ways to take less pressure off the employees that we still have.
Speaking of running the city, a little tip of the hat to all those that were involved with the Keene Music Festival.
Oh, yeah.
We talk about Pumpkin Festival all year round, but this is one of these festivals that's, it's gotten a lot larger than it used to be. But they do a really phenomenal job. The difference, one of the big differences, you don't have to shut down the streets.
Right.
So by not shutting down the streets, you don't have to have so many city staff involved with it. Yep. Went over very successful. It used to be when they first started it, they were looking for bands. Now they have to turn away bands.
Yeah.
Because it's just so. Bands all over the country literally want to come in and get the exposure in Keene for that.
Well, but see, this is, and I want to compare this a little bit to the, what was it called, where the merchants all came out a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, sidewalk sales.
Sidewalk fair. Yeah. But, and how that wasn't. Street fair. How that was not as successful. Well, the music fair has been going on for years now. So it takes time. I'm willing to bet the first, like as you said, the first one, you couldn't get bands. Now you're turning them away. So the street fair, even though not successful, it hasn't been done in 20 years, and now it's back. I don't know that I'd abandon it. You need to build that clientele.
Absolutely. And I think the downtown merchants, I talked to a couple of merchants, and there seemed like there's a little lack of communication on it. There was just, but that happens when you're starting to bring something back.
Right, you're figuring it out. The people who probably ran the last ones are long gone, so the learning curve there is brand new, all over again. Now you're at the wrong side of it, but people learn pretty quick. What didn't work right, what did, and I hope they come back next year and do it again. Absolutely,
because the main focus is the downtown merchants on that one. It used to be getting rid of your summer goods for the most part. So I'm sure they'll bring it. I'm sure it'll be successful. But yeah, you tweak it. You find out you had all those like the inflated bouncy, for the kids, and maybe you don't need all those things. Maybe you just focus right in on just the sales themselves and a little bit of entertainment.
Right. Yeah. Then put some music out, make it a festival. But I agree. I mean, you don't want to go.
Don't abandon it.
Don't abandon it.
You got to give it another shot.
But grow it a little bit more a piece at a time than trying to make it a grand adventure.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that would work out better.
So anyhow, kudos to them because it went over really, really well.
Yes.
Talking about that, this weekend is the air show is back. I mean, you and I remember the days of Blue Angels and the Golden Knight parachute team, and yeah, it's a lot smaller than that, but still, they're still having, they're still going to be parachuting.
Yep.
There's still going to be military aircraft down there. Going to be a lot of fun.
Yep.
And once again, you got to support it. Yeah. Support it. I'm probably going to be down there on Saturday. They do have some heavy competition on Sunday. And what is that, Dave? Are you ready for some football?
Yes.
That's a tough competition to go against.
Yeah, if I go, it'll be Saturday because
exactly.
I got opening day here.
Opening day football. That's a tough one for guys to break away from. But for all you football widows, grab the kids and head down to Glen Hopkins Airport, and you'll have something to do while your husband locks himself in the man cave Sunday.
That's where I will be.
Yes. Sorry, hon, I can't come out. The door's locked.
Yeah, and it was funny. My boss's boss is a big Dallas fan. I don't know if you watched any of that game, but Dallas wins with Ogletree. I never heard of this guy.
Undrafted free agent.
And he's a phenomenal player. The next morning, I got up, I shot him an email. I go, "Who the hell's Ogletree?"
Yeah.
Nice game.
Yeah. Hey, you never know.
And that's because when you play fantasy football, it's you're always looking for that guy that nobody spotted, and this may be the guy.
Now everybody will pick him up, and that'll be the last you'll hear of him.
Yeah, maybe.
Won't catch a pass the rest of the year.
Sometimes not. Some people who play for a while will say, "No, he had one good game."
We'll get back to football before the show is out.
Don't get me started.
That's kind of our throw-in. When we start running out of things to talk about, we'll start talking about pro football. Well, I guess speaking about Keene and talking about football, kudos to the Keene High football team last week, who took Salem in and totally undressed them and demolished them and embarrassed them.
And what was the score?
I think it was 62 to 20 something.
Oh.
I feel. But and I missed that game of all things. I guess Keene's running a hurry up offense, and a lot of these kids now have been together for 3 years. And in high school, you develop from a sophomore, junior, now you're a senior.
Right.
And I guess they're clicking on all cylinders. So
I guess so.
A lot of they kind of weight how good teams are statewide. The Union Leader and a bunch of those have polls. In the beginning of the year, before the season started, I guess Keene wasn't even on the radar. And now they've moved up to like number 5th in the state. It's like, oh, Keene could be for real. So I guess they're away this week. But, you want good football for cheap for a couple of bucks, on a Friday night. Get out there and watch the Keene game. The one I'm looking forward to this year is the Bishop Girton game. Because Bishop Girton, and I argue this all the time, they shouldn't even be in Division II. They should be in their own league because they're a private school. They recruit. Local areas, you get the talent from your local neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Well, this school recruits all over Massachusetts, and they bring them up into New Hampshire, and they try to be a powerhouse. And they are a powerhouse because they recruit, although Keene did beat them last year. But I'm looking for Keene to mop them up this year.
Yep. One thing I did want to say about the air show, there is an admission charge.
Yes.
So I think it's $12 for adults and $6 for children.
Yeah, well worth it.
It is, but just be prepared. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. Bring a couple bucks with you. Let's see. So let me cross off air show. One thing we get coming up shortly too. We'll talk about this more next week. The Democrats in the area here have their annual
spaghetti
dinner.
Yeah.
And it's usually at the high school. Yeah. And we'll talk about that a little bit more next week.
Yep.
And so for you, Democrats who want to go to spaghetti dinner,
we'll have facts and figures.
And for Republicans who just want to crash it, hey, you can pay for a ticket too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not a problem there. It's always entertaining. See a lot of people let you know. Cross that out there. Primary, going back and talking about the sheriff's race that Jack Zeller was on, and Earl Nelson couldn't make it, but that's another story for another day.
Yep.
One of them after Tuesday won't be there. So Tuesday, in a a lot of people don't even realize that you vote Tuesday.
Yep.
You know, primary elections, and more people just stay away from the primaries. But you know, here's a case where you get two local guys running for sheriff, and one of them's not going to make it. So
right.
You don't want it to be. You don't want your candidate not to win because
you didn't vote
by 5 or 6 votes because you didn't show up. In primaries in this area, it doesn't take many votes to eliminate somebody.
No, it doesn't. In the first primary I ran, it was a 100 to 50. I mean, 150, which you can get enough people to show up, you can win that.
Yeah, and so a lot of this is going to be who gets their voters out.
Yep.
Because a lot of that happens. People say, "Oh, I didn't know," or "I had a cold," or "I had to brush my teeth," or "Gee, really? We voted Tuesday?" So we're telling you, you know, get out there, and it takes literally. Once you get into your voting place in primaries, 5 minutes.
Yeah,
color it, scan it.
Yeah, it's nothing. Gone. And you know, in a primary, there's not going to be any lines. You're not going to have any problems. You're going to go walk right in.
Get in, get out within like 5 or 10 minutes. So, please make sure that you vote in the primary on Tuesday. You've been told. Let's see what else. Oh, next week's show, I'll get a little bit ahead of ourselves because we told you we're winging the show, and we are. Next week, our guest is going to be Dory O'Meara.
Yep.
She's a businesswoman in Keene. I mean, she ran for council before. Didn't quite make it, but nonetheless, what she's really coming on for, she owns a lot of businesses downtown. She has a business office on one side of Central Square. Then she owns Pedrazza's and the Poorhouse that just opened on the other side of Central Square. Well, she spends a ton of time in her office while she's working, looking out the window on the Common. And as we know, a lot of things go on the Common that shouldn't go on the Common. And one of the things that happened yesterday, I was talking to her. She was walking through the Common, and there was a young mother pushing a baby carriage. And as she's walking by, the young mother reaches into a backpack, pulls out a pot pipe, fires it up, and starts smoking dope.
Really?
While pushing the baby carriage. And
wow.
And so anyhow, Dory and a couple other people saw it and had a couple of comments for her, and the mother was just like, mind your own business. The police were called, social services were called, and so they're taking it from there.
Well, that's not kidding around.
No.
No,
and kudos to her and to the other citizens of Keene who made the call instead of turning your back and walking away.
Right.
And I guess from what I heard, the baby basically that was in the carriage was an absolute mess.
Yeah.
Just an absolute mess.
That's sad to hear.
One of the things we're going to talk about next week, and we're going to do a little bit of work this week, Dave and I are, and I know Dory is, we're going to start talking about homeless in Keene, the problems in Keene where people have been coming in and just plopping their butts down, and now they call themselves a citizen of Keene. It's a problem. And we're going to talk about the shelters, the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent, and we're going to start, getting into it because I've started to see it as you see fall coming closer. You start to see a lot of cast of characters lying on the benches, lying in the bushes, sitting on the curbs of businesses downtown, more and more. And Keene's small, so and my wife and I walk downtown virtually every day, and so you virtually see, you recognize people, and then you start to not recognize people, and the ones we're not recognizing, it's, let's just say it's a cast of characters,
Well,
go ahead, be politically correct. So he's the elected one right now.
Look, the shelters that are run by Southwest, I think they do a pretty good job. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the status of the 100 Nights shelter is. Whether they had signed that letter we talked about or not. Of course, that wouldn't be reported to council anyways.
We'll find out. Those are things we'll look into this week.
Yeah, we'll find that out this week. Nobody should freeze to death in the winter, but I don't want to be a mecca for troubled people either. I mean, we have people to take care of from, I think, Cheshire County that we should watch out for.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to find out a lot when the weather changes.
Yep.
Whether or not we're back to last year. I mean, the economy is pretty decent in New Hampshire. We're 5.4% unemployment. So,
what you find,
are we coming out of it, or is it going to be more like last year?
Yeah, I mean, are we importing people from Florida, Claremont, as some of the stories were last year? Legitimately, there are people that are down and out in the luck. Absolutely. It happens. You have a job one day, you don't have a job the next. But what you find with a lot of these cast of characters that are kind of finding their way into Keene, they don't work and they don't have any intentions of working. And one of the things that's favorable for Keene for a lot of them is you have a place to stay, you have a place to eat,
Yeah.
and you have a place to hang out, and then, like this young woman, basically looking for your drugs, so it's a cycle, and you don't want to get people into the cycle and they don't get off the cycle.
That's a statistical fact. The longer you are out of work, the harder it is for you to come back to work.
Yeah.
And that is a fact.
So, speak off the cuff occasionally here, but that's one thing we'll do in the next week is try to put some facts together. I'm actually planning on going out and talking to some of the people that'll talk. No cameras. I don't even want their names.
Yeah.
Just see if I can be candid with them. Where'd you come from?
Yeah.
What brought you here? You get down on your luck. Just be candid with them. For the ones that'll be honest, we'll see what they'll give us. So anyhow, like I said, next week Dory O'Meara will be our guest, and I'll give her credit because she also is a foster parent now. So she brings in children that are troubled, takes care of them, and then they unfortunately they have to move on.
Right.
And so she's really takes this personally when she sees children like this in the baby carriage that are completely messed up.
How can you not see? How do you see something like that and not feel bad for the kid? I mean, you're starting out right behind that 8 ball already. I mean,
and a couple of people commented to me, on this particular one where she's standing there smoking dope while the baby's in the baby carriage. That some Keene residents just kind of turned and walked away. Don't turn and walk away.
No, now it's something like that.
It just takes a phone call. Don't feel like you're snooping or whatever. It just makes a phone call. You get a mother, you get a baby, you get drugs. Bad combination. Get involved. So anyhow, that's next week. We'll be talking about that. I'm going to switch it back over to you. What do you got now, Dave?
Well,
go ahead, wing it.
Okay, I'll wing it. I don't have a lot of other city council stuff. I have actually meetings today with the city manager and the planning director for what's coming up with the water.
Protection Act, yeah.
Yeah, the Water Protection Act, which will be coming next Monday to the Joint Planning Board, 7 p.m. That's an open workshop for the public, so if you're interested in this, please attend. Your comments will be taken. I
do see something over there, you know.
Yep.
The bridge.
The bridge.
Controversial bridge. First it was controversial about building it. Now it's controversial about
naming it,
opening it. But I mean, and I was listening to Mayor Lane talk about it. It's like, look, there was no conspiracies here. It's like once the engineers approved it, it's okay to open. Now I don't know if they need it to set for a couple of weeks to make sure everything's fine. I'm not an engineer either.
Yeah, I got a call. They just wanted to kind of dot the I's and cross the T's for another week. And, I was asked by city staff if it was okay. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. We waited 10 years. I mean, 1 week's not going to kill anybody. I mean, this has been, they were raising money for more than 10 years to build this. So, a week's not going to kill anybody. That's Saturday, September 15th. I've actually been given these flyers to give to the middle school.
Yep. So another week, if you want to, what time they say it was going to be?
Noon. Well, the dedication's at noon.
Right.
And then what they're asking for is all the kids to decorate your bikes with flags and ribbons, whatever you want to decorate them with, and head over after the dedication. Right across the bridge. So, it should be a pretty cool event.
Yeah. Yep. So, and I know, once again, talk about former councilors, Chuck Redfern. That was one of his.
It was one of the things he fought for years.
You talk about Phil Jones. He was involved with the cable television, getting Cheshire TV going. And Chuck, one of his was the bike paths and getting that bridge going.
Chuck was instrumental in all the bike paths and the whole process.
Yep.
I mean, he did a bang-up job on that. I mean, and he will be missed from council.
Absolutely. There's local people doing good. But, Chuck and Phil, it's like anybody that's been on council and got off, and I can vouch for that. You just don't go away because,
Well, you're so invested in everything.
You're involved. It's like any time the council makes a vote now, even though I try to sit back and relax, and I watch every vote. I listen to all the comments. Some you go whatever, and some your head just spins. It's like, what the hell are they thinking?
It's true.
But, kudos to them. Let's see. I guess.
No, my head never spun when it was Phil or Chuck talking about anything, though.
No.
I mean, we've disisagreed, but
it didn't do the full exorcist spin.
No, not quite. A little tweak maybe, but that's all the way around.
Dave and I sat beside each other in council a couple times. We had a couple of tweaks when you look at each other. And we'd smile. Then you get out and you go out and have a cold beer after.
What were you thinking?
What the hell are you thinking? Anyhow, I'm not buying you a beer tonight. Let's see. In no particular order here. Let's talk about the fire station, which the fire station is virtually done.
Oh,
but because of the street,
that's
almost done.
I do have 2 updates. The fire station should be completed in 4 weeks. It's primarily the roads.
Right.
The chief has promised us last week of September, first week of October, but they have to tie the road stuff in. So, but he has promised.
Yeah.
So and
he can promise, but they have to do some paving here pretty quick.
Yeah, they do. Well, if you look. It's coming along. The concrete's there. It's marrying all the the different entities together. I guess you'd call them the street underneath the ground, and then the touch-up work on the fire station itself, the detail stuff.
I know they want to have it as best as possible for the firemen's parade.
Yes,
because they want to show it off.
Sure, yeah.
Obviously.
Well, he may have picked that date, October 7th, to say
we better be done.
Right. The police chief, I talked to him. He did not have a date for the opening of the little station downtown. I don't. What we should
substation.
You should call it that. Not really a substation.
Walk-in station, whatever you want to call it.
He said there was some interior stuff that they just hadn't quite figured out how to do yet in the space they have. It's almost there. The construction's done. So I just asked him to get back to me when you have.
Once again, the space was donated.
Yeah, space was donated.
Had to put a couple of improvements in there, but the space was donated.
I think we had to spend less than $5,000 to do everything and make it
the whole thing.
So, and that's a substation for $5,000. I mean,
yeah,
that's but that's money well spent. You're not going to beat that.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm telling you. That's why our budget's going right through the roof. Speaking of police and fire, since we're talking about fire, let's stay on fire. Last week, 92 calls, up a little bit. Had seven fires in the city. 3 of them were within buildings, building fire and appliance fire and cooking fire. But once again, fire department knocked it down before you could burn your house down, so good job. In 3 outside fires, grills and vegetation.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I guess there was nothing major, just people burning up their grills again. But once again, don't have your grill on your porch.
Yeah,
because you'll go from a grill fire to a house fire real fast.
Yeah.
Ambulance runs, 74. 8 of those were for motor vehicle accidents.
That's up. That's up.
Yeah, the people were running into each other quite a bit last week.
Pay attention. Slow down.
Exactly. And with college back, you get 5 or 6,000 more people in town. And that's one thing I have noticed as we jump back and forth here. Traffic is a lot heavier in Keene now.
It has been.
Because I come down Court Street as you do.
Yeah.
And it used to be I'd come right in. Hey, where do we go? Look at that.
And we're back.
Yeah. Jeez, I tell you talk about technology. Next thing you know, you're gone. But anyway, traffic definitely is a lot heavier in Keene. I mean, school's back in, college is back in.
Yeah,
so,
and the construction projects, particularly on School Street, are still going on. So
and
they're
that
confusing.
does raise havoc with Court Street because nobody can jump down.
Yeah, I always used to cheat around that way myself. Yeah. So,
anyhow, back to the fire. We had 6 good intent calls and 6 false alarms. Had 1 malicious alarm, so shame on you. But that was the activity in Keene. Looking at it, and I try to tie in. There's a lot of people like to hear, how much of the college had an effect on this, and it was really minimal. Yeah. I went down through the whole week's worth of police logs, which I have right here, and as far as that goes, it was very minimal. Getting to the police log for the week, here's your week in the city of Keene for the police. So once again, it's well over 100 calls a day, and there's about 800 and something for the week, which kept him busy. In no particular order, let's go down a few of these. Now, disturbances in Keene. Disturbances is usually either a fight or party out of control, or it's a step above a noise complaint. Anyhow, there's 26 of those in Keene that were reported as disturbances. 11 of them were on Keene streets, which a lot of them were in the downtown area where you get a group of kids. Some of them were on side streets where there might have been parties. So anyhow, 11 of them were on streets. None of them turned out to be actually too serious. It was just, the police got there and broke it up. 3 disturbances in bars or restaurants. 6 of these were in apartments or homes in Keene. So once again, it might have been something that just got out of hand.
Right.
4 were on the college campus. 1 was at Cheshire Hospital, which is actually down quite a bit because
yeah, that is. They usually have a few.
The emergency room you get some of these people brought in intoxicated or drugs. and they're not somebody to bring home to mom.
No, no.
And one disturbance at the skate park. And that's been a lot quieter lately, because remember there was years that was always talking about skate park.
Well, we had
lot quieter there.
Well, we had some I don't know, back in the day I guess you call it a bad element that was coming in from out of town and going to the skate park, and unless you catch them doing something, they have a right to be there, and that kind of cycles. The police do a good job, and it kind of cycles itself in and out. So right now we're in an out cycle on that, so hopefully it'll stay that way.
And a lot of it, like you just mentioned, the police. A lot of it has to do with all of a sudden, the police start hanging out there more.
Yeah, they'll focus on it.
And now the kids, or the troublemakers, they don't want to be where the police are.
Right, and when they're from out of town, they may try to move to another location. The police usually find them, and then after they chase them around a little, they say, well, we can find a better place to hang out, because Keene, they're not going to let us,
absolutely
be bad here. So,
or in some cases, some of them get into their 30s and 40s, and they figure they're too old for skateboards now. So they had to get a life. But most of the kids that I was hanging around the skate park, we've always said this, most of them are really good kids. The problem is you get a few bad elements, and it scares the good kids away.
That's exactly what happens,
So, anyhow, skate parks seem to be quieter. Noise complaints in the city, these are going to start going up, obviously. Right. But 11 were from in the streets, once again, just people just being too loud. 14 were at apartments or homes. Right. 12 were within the college, and I don't want to blame the college. 12 of these were kind of in the framework of like Blake Street, Davis Street. I mean, your typical party areas where they are. But looking at these, for the most part, the college was really quiet, or the enforcement really stepped up.
Yeah, relatively.
Because these are just noise complaints. I mean, let's face it, you're 18, 19, 20, you're noisy.
Yeah, and the police are going to focus on those areas when college comes back. They're going to be down there setting the tone for this coming year.
Yep, and I know Jay Kahn has done a good job down there, being a local guy running the college. So moving on to that, alcohol arrests in the city last week. There was 28 arrests for alcohol overconsumption, open containers. Out of the 28, 18 of them were Keene State students. Yeah. And once again, these are the police being stealth. Like I said, all of a sudden that young-looking guy with a ball cap on sideways, oops. Yeah. Plainclothes cop, and they do. They go down there and they walk the area, and they enforce, and things settle down. So anyhow, 28 arrests totaled, 18 at the college, 10 non-college. Drug arrests, there was 11 of them. 7 of them were from the college. Yeah. Virtually all pot. Just once again, the police are down there enforcing it. So, you push it, you're going to get caught. But the one thing that I did notice, as far as like major problem, like let's see, I've got like criminal mischief. We're breaking things. There's virtually nothing in the college framework. Nothing. It was just basically just noise and parties. So it really seems to be tapering down well. Within Keene, there was 6 domestic arrests. There was only 7 criminal mischief calls, which is good. You don't want to have any, but let's face it, 7 in the city for a week's good. 10 people were arrested for criminal trespass, and usually that means you've been thrown out of a business. In most cases, you've been thrown out of a bar. You've been written up and told never to come back. Right. And you decided you were going to come back, and now you went to jail for it. 5 reported assaults. 14, this was up a little bit, 14 assisting the fire department, which usually means the fire department might have somebody going into an ambulance that's being a little bit rowdy, and they want the assist of the police department. One that was up, and I noticed this one, there was 15 ordinance violations. Now, most of these were just warnings. And I was reading some of the police officers' names, and I'm not going to repeat them because, well, they've just done a good job, but I don't like putting their names out there. But a lot of these were for riding bikes and sidewalks downtown, which, by the way, is illegal on Main Street because there's too much foot traffic. And the police get busy, and I mean, you and I both see bicycles riding up and down the street, but there's a few officers that really are cracking down on this, especially with college back because there's just too many people on the sidewalks. So that was definitely up. 2 calls for suicide reports, which was down, which is good. We hope that stays way down. 15 suspicious persons, and that's actually fairly quiet too. Once again, Dave and I running through your backyard at 1 in the morning, so we're sorry. 27 calls for thefts and shoplifting, which is up a little bit, and 17 animal complaints, and those were basically a few noisy animals But a lot of these calls, once again, are coming in for people that have left your animal in the hot sun, in the car, in a shopping plaza.
Right.
So don't
do that.
Your doggy will fry. And that was it for the police department last week. But like I said, the one thing that I did notice as I was, and I believe me, all 700-800 of these calls, I go through every one of them, and try to really, you can kind of get behind the scenes with some of them. But most of them are pretty straightforward. It was a little bit loud in the city, and that was about it for differences. Just a little louder.
Yeah, it doesn't sound too bad. Doesn't sound too bad.
Nope. And of course, Keene schools went back to school this week.
Yep.
Which I like seeing it after Labor Day. I wish it got into the point where you're going, the week before Labor Day.
Yeah.
And then a lot of parents sent some of the kids anyhow because they took them on vacations.
Right.
So I liked the
well, my son started at the middle school.
I was gonna bring that up. How'd that go?
He's he's very excited to go, but it's an hour earlier in the morning for him, and he wasn't quite ready for that. So it's funny because when he was 6, 7, 8, 9, he's up with the sun 6 a.m. He's wants to do stuff, and now he's he'll be 12 in the next month, and I can already start to see I got to get up at 6:30. What? Come on, buddy, time to rise and shine.
It's kind of true. It seems like that every year. The older I get,
the harder it gets.
I don't want to get out of bed. That work stuff, man. That's for the birds.
But he's doing well. I'm impressed with how they've organized it there, and he's very excited. I got a tour of the school. It's of course it's beautiful. It's brand new. Mm-hmm. But I think they take the right approach, and he seems pretty excited and pretty happy to do it.
I guess the dedication for the middle school is coming up. Delayed. I believe it's this weekend coming up. Of course, the auditorium, then they had the tragedy out there, and it backed everything up.
Right.
So is it more blocked into like 6th, 7th, and 8th? Do they kind of have their own quadrants now?
Yeah, I keep calling them pods, but there's clusters. That's what they call them, clusters. So you have like the blue and yellow cluster are 6th grade. I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not sure. So my son's in the yellow cluster, and then so they pretty much circulate amongst all their classes there, except for of course like gym and cafeteria and art, where it's a more of a community type thing. I think the systems are pretty impressive. I mean, they have all kinds of after-school activities. My son right now is going to stay in the homework club every day. And we talked it out. I said, look, you can go to that, work with your friends, do your homework, and you come home and you're done. You know, or you can come home and wait for me at 5 o'clock and so did you get your homework done? No. Okay, let's go.
Then you grab his math and try to do it and realize it's like
I don't know.
Do your own math. Are you smarter than a 5th grader?
Nope. I can answer all the questions last year, but I couldn't do it the way he was supposed to do. Oh no, Dad, you're doing it wrong. I'm like, I got the right answer.
God bless calculators, huh?
I used pen and ink. I was showing them, but they have some new way of doing it, and I'm like, I actually talked to his math teacher and I said, is it okay if I do it this way? And she's like, oh no, that's fine. I'm like, okay, I don't want to screw them up. I mean, but they approach it a little different. That's all.
The bottom line is the bottom line.
That's right. You get the right answer in math.
They do it so much better now. Because I remember, many moons ago, back walking to school in blizzards uphill both ways. When I first went to the middle school, I came from Roosevelt School up in the North End, which is now it's a community college. But it was, small little neighborhood school where everybody knew everybody. You walked to school, and then hit to the big middle school downtown, and everything was kind of. If you remember the old Keene, everything was intimidating. Yeah, man, you walk in as a 6th grader from, Fuller School or Roosevelt School or any school, these small elementary schools, and there was no indoctrination. There was no. You went there early to check out the school. Yep. You went there day one.
Here you go.
Yeah, and you're walking around. Of course, as a 6th grader, you're asking the big 8th graders where my class is, and you go out the front door, take a left, and it's down West Street. It was definitely intimidating. So they definitely do a lot better job of having them quadranted or grouped or clustered or whatever you want to call it.
Clustered. I get nothing but trouble if I get that wrong. Yeah. But last week we took a tour, and it was it was pretty cool. They do a nice job.
So once again, everybody's back at school, and it definitely has created a lot more traffic on the city streets. But pay attention because as we noticed, motor vehicle accidents were up.
Yes.
And it gets busy. You go down Winchester Street, you look left or right for a second, there's somebody in front of you, or the car in front of you is stopped, or
particularly on the 4th, the 2 lanes on each way, you got to really be paying attention.
No lollygagging.
No.
So we've pretty much I'm taking a look at my schedule here. We've winged it pretty good because, like we said, candidate for sheriff Earl Nelson couldn't make it.
Yep.
I know both of them are going to be on WKBK coming up on Monday.
Yep.
And,
well, you want to hit on some other crazy stuff? We got a little time.
We got about 5 minutes left to go. Let's just. Well, you know what? We said we were going to talk football,
so we can go there.
We'll go there. Let's talk pro football. Yeah, fantasy football, I've always picked on because I think people take fantasy football too seriously. And that reminds me, I listened to the radio the other day. And I think it was a couple of $1 billion they said is lost in revenue every year to what? Work is lost. And it's to fantasy football.
Really?
People at work doing their fantasy football online.
Yeah.
Because some people are really into it. One of the guys at work actually got me into a league this year. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And so I was over at Dave's house, and we're trying to get online. Of course, there was ESPN. I think we could get onto the site. No, the site was overloaded. But nonetheless, I couldn't get there to do my picks. And if you're not there, the computer actually does a pick for you. And it's like, thank God they did.
Yeah.
And,
well,
so I have my team. I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to sit with it. And if I win, I win. If I don't, I don't.
The first year out, that's the right thing to do because you're going to figure out how it works the first year. But I don't do my picks at work. I mean, I make it a thing on Sunday. I mean,
Rick Cohen wouldn't be happy with you.
No, he wouldn't, and he'd have a right to be. No, I just, you got to separate those things in your life. So don't do that stuff at work. But
why get fired for something that's, that's fantasy. It's pretend.
Yeah,
your job's not pretend.
And Randy's been at my house many times for football games, and we make a day of it. And now this is my son. His first year. I gave him one of my fantasy teams. So what you do is you come in. In the morning you have breakfast, and then I'll talk to Alex. I'll sit with him. This is coming up for the first time Sunday. I'm looking forward to it. All right, who's the strong defense? Who do you want to put in against who? Is anybody hurt? And you line them all up, and then that's it. And then you watch the games. And the cool thing about fantasy football really is, if your game is sluggish and you've got another game on another channel, you can flip over to that game, and you might have somebody playing in it. So you can watch, a player here and there, and it makes really a lot of games you might not want to watch a lot more fun. Now I get the NFL package. That's because
he has DirecTV.
I get DirecTV, so I get the NFL package because I'm a 49ers fan, and if I didn't get it,
we don't know why.
I'd never be able to see wouldn't be able to. I'd see 3 games a year of them, so I get all the games, so I can flip around and. So
What time's the Niners game come on this Sunday?
4:30, 4:20.
The Patriots game comes on at 1
o'clock.
Right? Yeah. All right, I'll be there.
So and then
I go over there, watch Pat's game at his house, and San Fran's game on. San Fran.
Well, we've worked this. This works great because the Patriots are always early and the Niners are always late, and then we make a day of it. We make tacos or whatever, and it's fun. So it's.
You both buy one beer.
Yes.
One
beer.
Well,
it's Sunday. It's a school night.
Only one. Only one. Yeah, one.
That's
a good sound effect.
But if you make a little event of it, it makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Now, I definitely have the tougher game this week. The 49ers are going to Green Bay. What a way to start the season.
Yeah.
But I think it'll tell us a lot about what's going to happen. I hope it tells me good things about the 49ers. But start your opener against 15-1 Green Bay.
Yeah, the good thing is about football, like any sporting event, before the season starts, everybody's in first place.
Yep, hope springs eternal.
And speaking about sports, I did manage to go down to the Owl Soccer Stadium the other night, and I try to catch Keene State soccer games quite a bit. There's a lot of talent. Yep. I caught the women's game the other night. They lost 2-1. Started off slow. Yep. They're on their heels a little bit too much. Good team. Denise Lyons has been coaching this team forever. She just got a 300th win the other night, so congratulations to Denise. I'm going to try to go down this week and catch a men's game, but it's a couple of bucks. You want sports entertainment. You go down to the Keene State athletic fields. You can really catch some good sports.
Yep.
And now, like we said, with Keene High football doing so well too. And I missed that game, and I don't know why. I just spaced it. But I was driving down Arch Street too, and I looked over. And I'm like, by then the game was almost over.
Yeah.
The stands were packed.
Yeah.
The old Friday night football, under the lights, is really a good idea.
Yeah, that's cool.
So definitely you're going to want to go down there and catch that. That's about all I got, Dave. I've tried to wing it as much as I could. You got anything left?
Well, just that I watched actually both the President Clinton and President Obama's speeches last night.
Yep. Clinton was on fire the other night, huh?
That guy is phenomenal.
He can light it
up.
Well,
I taped it because I was at meetings and I couldn't watch it, and I said I got to watch it or I'll hear all the commentary and I'll know what he said anyways. But I was also told that he didn't use a teleprompter for about half of the speech, and he is
was winging it. Yeah.
Numbers and facts and stats. I mean, that guy is phenomenal. I think President Obama's speech was just as good, even more rousing than President Clinton's. And I think they played it very brilliantly because, you know, Bill Clinton was really about how did we get to here, and then President Obama was where are we going to go. And it seemed if you looked at, and then the first night was really introducing the president again. Mm-hmm. And if you look at how the Democrats did it, it was very well done. And, you know, and look, I'm a Democrat, but I like to think I'm conservative with money and we try to do the right thing. But if you look at the Republican convention, which I didn't watch all of it because, frankly, a lot of it was just, you know, mean-spirited stuff. You know, nothing about where we're going. All about, you know, how the guy screwed up who's there today, and we're going to fix it by doing what, you know, screwed it up in the first place. I just think that much more optimistic, the Democratic convention, much more forward-looking, and I think those two speakers, oh my God, they were brilliant, just brilliant.
So now the game begins.
And yeah, now the real show's on. Yeah. You know, and I really think that you have the conventions, which I think are going to favor the Democrats, and I think you even hear the Republicans saying the Democrat convention was better. But really now it's the debates. I think that, you know, we're so close in the numbers.
People start paying attention now.
The debates will do a lot of the deciding of what's going to happen next. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, definitely is. You know, you got to get involved, and you know, it's more than rhetoric. Now you have to get down to the facts.
Yep. Now
anybody can say anything, but then you get into the fact check.
Right.
And see what.
And they fact checked President Clinton, and virtually everything he said was right on the tee. They fact checked Ryan, and they said it was the most amount of lies they've ever heard. So
that's what you have to do. You have to find out what's good and what's not and what's real. Well, anyhow,
our timer's up.
We've managed to wing it. Thank everybody very much. We'll be back next week. Dory O'Meara will be on. We'll be talking about all kinds of issues downtown. Thank you. Have a great week. Go Patriots.
Go Niners.